We have a major story this afternoon that not enough people are talking about because it's urgent and it impacts hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Americans. Donald Trump was in the Oval Office today with Prime Minister Mark Carney of Canada, and he was asked simply whether or not the White House plans on giving back pay to all furloughed government employees after the government shutdown ends. And his answer, folks, was startling. It violates the law. He said, quote, "We're going to take care of our people, but some, quote, don't deserve to be taken care of and would be handled differently." I want that to set in for a second, because what Donald Trump is advocating for in this moment is for the federal government to prioritize certain federal employees, theoretically those who may have voted for him or those who he appointed and installed in government, versus career employees who have been furloughed by this administration due to no fault of their own, simply because Congress can't keep the lights on in Washington, D.C. I want you to watch this moment from the Oval Office.
President, is it the White House's position that furloughed workers should be paid for their back pay?
I would say it depends on who we're talking about. I can tell you this, the Democrats have put a lot of people in great risk and jeopardy, but it really depends on who you're talking about. But for the most part, we're going to take care of our people. There are some people that really don't deserve to be taken care of, and we'll take care of them in a different way. Okay? Thank you.
Those words should scare you. They should scare you, and they should be on the front page of every single media organization today, because what this administration is advocating for in the Oval Office is essentially some type of purity test. If you align with this administration, you'll get back pay. If you don't, you may not. And well, here's the issue here. The real issue is that Donald Trump's words are violative of a 2019 law passed by Congress, which mandated back pay for all federal workers. After a government shutdown, when the government reopens, if you were furloughed, meaning you were taken off the job, forced not to work due to no fault of your own, you'll get back pay for the time that you were on furlough. That law has been cited by Republicans and Democrats on Capitol Hill today, both of whom have come out and essentially said what this White House is advocating for is wrong. You have bipartisan opposition to Donald Trump's remarks, bipartisan opposition to potentially leaving furloughed federal employees without pay. And it comes at a time where many of these employees don't know where their next paycheck is coming from. Some have to go and become Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, take on shifts at local restaurants because they can't afford to live because they're undergoing a government shutdown. And while typically they'd expect to get back pay, but right now the White House is looking to try to figure out a way to make that reality not one. And that is dangerous. And while some in the media aren't talking about it or aren't hyping it up to the extent that it should be, I will. Because this is an issue that if we don't talk about, we'll go through unscathed, and this White House will be able to do it. So make sure to support my work if you haven't yet. Consider subscribing today or sending a one-time donation via Venmo to Aaron-Parnas. And this government shutdown as a whole, folks, is in many ways like a boa constrictor. It's constricting. You don't feel the impacts right away always. On the first day, you didn't feel the impacts of the government shutdown, but slowly but surely, over the past week, since we're now day 7, the government has closed and tightened. And as a result, Americans are beginning to feel it. Over 6,000 United States flights have been delayed as air traffic control staffing shortages worsened during the shutdown. Temporary airport closures have begun. Unpaid air traffic controllers are working extended hours because they're essential. Amid mounting stress and partisan gridlock, some of them are being forced to call in sick. Some of them are being forced to take on additional shifts. It's a very bad situation overall. And now NBC News is reporting that if the government shutdown continues past Sunday, federal funding for the Essential Air Service Program, which sustains airline routes to 177 rural communities nationwide, will expire. What that means is that it threatens to cut off remote areas like Alaska from vital air connections as officials warn of severe economic and safety impacts. And as the government shutdown nears its second week, governors in Utah, West Virginia, Tennessee, and Colorado are using state funds now to keep national parks open to protect tourism revenue. though conservationists are now warning that this patchwork approach risks environmental damage and states won't actually be reimbursed by the federal government for the costs. And on Capitol Hill, we're not any closer to government reopening today than we were yesterday or last week. But there may be signs of cracking. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, one of the most conservative Republicans, said today that she is open to working with Democrats on health care to prevent insurance premiums from doubling when tax credits expire. She's officially breaking from her party amid the government shutdown, criticizing both Republicans for prioritizing foreign wars and Democrats for their past health care policies that, in her words, led us to where we are today. But ultimately, folks, all signs point to a government shutdown that can last into next week or the week after. The longer this government shutdown lasts, the worse it will be for the American worker. And ultimately, you will suffer. Now, in other words, on Capitol Hill today, Pam Bondi was there. She clashed with Senate Democrats over Donald Trump's troop deployments and politicization of the Justice Department, refusing to discuss key cases and instead attacking lawmakers, as Democrats accused her of undermining judicial independence and shielding political allies. One such critical moment occurred when Senator Sheldon Whitehouse pressed Bondi on what happened to the $50,000, the bag of cash in a kava bag, that was given to border czar Tom Homan. Bondi would refuse to answer. She deflected, saying that the investigation found no wrongdoing and telling him to ask the FBI. I want you to take a moment and look at this.
Senator, as Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche recently stated, the investigation of Mr. Homan was subjected to a full review by the FBI, agents, and DOJ prosecutors. They found no credible evidence of any wrongdoing.
And that was not my question. My question was, what became of the $50,000 in cash that the FBI delivered, evidently in a paper bag, to Mr. Homan?
Senator, I'd look at your facts.
Are you saying that they did not deliver $50,000 in cash to Mr. Homan?
Senator, as recently stated, the investigation of Mr. Homan was subjected to a full review
different question.
by the FBI agents,
That's a
by
different
Department
question.
of Justice prosecutors. They found no evidence of wrongdoing.
That's a different question. What became of the $50,000? Did the FBI get it back?
Senator Whitehouse, you're welcome to talk to the FBI.
The report to you, can't you answer this question?
Senator Whitehouse, you're welcome to discuss this with Director Patel.
Did Homan keep the $50,000?
As Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche recently stated, the investigation of Mr.
Never
Homan
mind. I can
was
see I'm not going to get a straight
full
answer from you to a very
review
simple
by the
question.
FBI agents and the DOJ.
Do
They
you know-
found no credible evidence of wrongdoing. You know, you're very concerned about money and people taking money, and
Do
you
you
rail
know-
against
wait a
dark
second,
money.
wait a second, wait a
Yet you
second,
work with dark
wait a
money
second.
groups all the time, Senator
Wait a
Whitehouse.
second. Did you know?
She essentially, even though she is the boss, the head of the FBI, she refused to answer. She didn't want the public to know what happened to Tom Homan's $50,000 in cash. And within the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office right now, within the Department of Justice, well, things are not doing so great. Because in the Eastern District of Virginia, MSNBC is now reporting that Trump's new acting U.S. Attorney, Lindsey Halligan, had to bring in outside prosecutors to handle the James Comey case after no federal prosecutors in her office wanted to pursue the charges. On the ground, Texas National Guard troops arrived in Chicago after a judge declined to block their deployment. And Donald Trump is moving closer to invoking the Insurrection Act of 1807 to allow these National Guard troops to use law enforcement force against American citizens. And today, the United States Supreme Court signaled that it may overturn Colorado's ban on conversion therapy, with conservative justices questioning whether the law violates free speech under the First Amendment. That's all the news right now. As always, if you want to support my work, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you soon for more. Hey folks, Aaron Parnas here. Thank you so much for watching The Parnas Perspective. Please consider subscribing to support our work as we grow this independent news media entity into something that rivals mainstream every single day. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon.